sits upon the Mount of Olives, and they ask him, and this is their question: when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? So that's what they want to know: when, what time, and what is the sign of when he's coming back and the end of the world. And then, and that's I put that picture in there. So the end of the world, it doesn't really mean like the end, like the destruction of the planet, okay? But it's rather is talking about the end of the age. In other words, the age that they were living in, the kingdom. When is that age going to end, and when are you going to set up your kingdom? That's what they're asking him. Okay. And remember that I showed you this little. Now I made this, the Jewish age, and we talked about Daniel, because you can't talk about Matthew 24 unless you hook in Daniel chapter 9. That they're together like that, so you really can't separate them. But we talked about the 490 years, which started with King Cyrus's decree and ends the 490. And these, remember, these are prophecy years. It ends at the end of that age and the start of the kingdom, which is the millennium. So it hasn't ended yet, right? And remember that I told you that 483 years had ticked off up to here. And then the clock stopped when the Messiah was rejected by the nation. And I put T minus 7 years. I'm using the, you know how when they launch the rockets in NASA, they always say T minus every how many minutes and counting, and then the space shuttle or whatever. Now it's Artemis.
Yeah, I'm ignorant, but what does the T stand for?
Time. Time
Okay.
minus 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 7 years left on this clock that has not ticked off. Okay? Because when all 490 years are finished, the millennium is going to start. And the millennium has not started yet. So we are in a pause. We are in the church age. So it's like a parenthesis in time. It's like God stopped his prophecy clock with 7 years left, and it's paused there. And during that time, we are in the age of the church. Okay? The disciples didn't see it. No one saw it. Remember what Paul wrote? And I don't have the verse in here, but he said, "Behold, I show you a mystery." And then he started talking about the church. The church was a mystery to all of them because it's not in the prophets at all. It's nowhere in the Old Testament. And it took the Apostle Paul and his books to explain to us what is the church, okay? But the disciples in the beginning, when they're with Jesus those 3 years, they have no idea anything about the church, okay? It's only after death, burial, resurrection, and the coming of the Spirit at Pentecost, then they finally start to understand, okay, we are in the age called the church. But Matthew chapter 24 is not the church. So remember that Jeremiah had the prophecy that the 70 years of captivity would end. Gabriel had the prophecy that there would be these 490 years. So we went over this last week, but I just want to review it briefly because I can never remember. I mean, I would have to take a roll every week to remember everybody who's here. I barely remember that I was here. So I remember when Tammy's here because she always hands me the microphone. But I always know that everybody has different schedules, and some have to be over there and over here. So I always just review a little bit in case there's someone, when I think Sloan wasn't here last week. So the prophecy clock is mentioned here in Daniel chapter 9. And Gabriel is giving these words to Daniel, and he's telling him, this is Gabriel talking, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks." These are weeks of years, so that's really 49 years. And 62 weeks, that's 62 weeks of years, so that's 69, all total, 483 years. up until the wall, even in troublous times. Remember, Nehemiah built the wall back around Jerusalem. So, verse 27, and this is a prince or ruler, and we call him the Antichrist. He is going to confirm a covenant with many. You see that? Not just with Israel, but with many nations for 1 week. Israel is going to be in the mix. This is the last 7 years. And in the midst of that week, or in other words, at the 3.5 year mark, this person, the Antichrist, shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And that's talking about in the temple, right? So in order for him to do that, that means there has to be a temple for him to do that, right? There's not a temple right now. For the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. Now that word is coming in. We have to go back and we have to look. This phrase is in Matthew. Okay, so I remember I told you the clock stopped ticking when the nation rejected the Messiah. It stopped ticking at T-minus 7 years. And let's go forward. Okay. So that's kind of review. Now here today is verse 4. So now Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Remember, this is during the tribulation, okay? So first mark will be, it will be a time of great deception and false claims. Fake news, right? That is going to mark the tribulation. But now, we see all that now, right? We see it now. Okay, so a couple of years ago, someone called me and said, Are we in the tribulation? I can't remember who it was. I said, No. And they said, Well, the tribulation is going to have great deception. I said, Yep. And we're going to see the next verse here. And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. We hear that too, right? Every day. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famine and pestilence, and earthquakes, and divers or different. We don't use this word anymore. You can say different places. So all of these things, we see them now. So they're like, why aren't we in the tribulation? We see famine, we see a pestilence is more than like a flu bug going around, but it'll be like COVID-19 was, okay? COVID-19 was a worldwide pandemic. It was a pestilence. And we see earthquakes, and we see all these wars, and we see great deception. So why aren't we in the tribulation? I said, well, because I'm still here, and you're still here, and the tribulation is not going to happen until the church is removed. And they were like, well, then why do we see all that? And I said, because that tells us what? What does that tell us? If we see all these things now and we're not in the tribulation, then guess how much worse they're going to be then? Okay? It just means it's going to be even more. And we think, how could it ever get worse? It's going to get worse. You think we have a lot of deception now? And the tribulation, the Bible says that everyone will be deceived. It'll be very hard to know the truth at all. You think we have wars now? In the tribulation, there'll be nothing but wars. Nothing but famine. Nothing but pestilence. In the tribulation, all this is going to be exaggerated. We're seeing it now because we are walking up to it. Okay, we're like so it'd be like this, and I use kind of corny examples, but y'all know I like college football, right? Specifically, I like Clemson football. So if it was a home game and we were like riding around in Clemson. If you were anywhere in Clemson, you can hear the noise of the stadium, right? But if you got out of your car and you started walking toward Death Valley, that noise is going to get louder and louder unless we're losing. Then they're going to be leaving. But if we're winning, that noise will get louder. And if you go into Death Valley, it's deafening because you're finally there. So see, what we see now is like the outer noise of the tribulation. But as we're getting closer and closer to it, it's going to be deafening for the people that are left here when it happens. Now, the church, meaning the people, not the buildings, the church, all born again people, are going to be removed in the rapture before the tribulation starts. That's why I know it hasn't happened yet. And that last 7 years hasn't ticked off yet because all of you and me, we're here. Okay. The saved people are going to be removed in what the Bible calls the rapture. And then this can happen. We are holding back the darkness. Did y'all know that? You think, oh, well, what can one person do? Your light, your testimony, and just your ability to speak the truth, it holds back the darkness. Okay? And as long as we're here, the Antichrist can't come. But when the time is right, and only God knows, okay? Only He knows when the rapture is going to be. When that happens and we are lifted out, then we won't be here anymore to hold back the darkness. Okay? And then the darkness will descend upon the earth. Now, some people say, well, if a person has heard the gospel now, they won't be able to get saved during the tribulation. Well, the Bible doesn't say that, okay? But this is what I always tell everybody. If a person is alive now and they hear the gospel and they have churches and pastors and have all these things and they still don't get saved, then when the tribulation comes and there's great deception, how can they be sure that they're going to know the truth? And there won't be anyone here except first, and we don't have time to get into it today, but the first two people that are going to be here is the two witnesses. And then as they preach, 144,000 Jewish men will be saved, and then they'll start preaching, and that's who's going to be preaching in the tribulation. So that's kind of outside the realm of this Matthew, because Jesus doesn't talk about that. We have to go to Revelation to talk about all that. But the earth is never without a witness. God has always got somebody here. So when He lifts the church out, when we go up, coming down is going to be the two witnesses. And be, hey, we're going down to that horrible earth. And I think it's Moses and Elijah. That's who I think it is. And they're going to be preaching, and from their preaching, 144,000 Jewish men will be saved. And then they'll go throughout the earth and they'll preach, and then other people will be saved.
I mean, there's always been problems on the world because
Right.
And then even after Jesus has died, these things have been going on, in different parts of the world or whatever. So what makes this time that we're living in now different than any of the other times in the past for us to say, for people to be wondering, are we in the tribulation or we're getting closer?
Mainly because the little nation of Israel exists right over there in the Middle East, and they haven't been there for 2,000 years. And they had to be there before all this can happen. So the very fact that Israel exists and they're in the land, that means better be ready, because the rapture can happen at any time. That was the main sign of everything. Israel had to be back in place. That's a good question. All of these things are the beginning of sorrows. That's Jesus' words, okay? So in other words, that's just, you're just getting started good. When you see those things happening, Jesus said it's just starting. Deception, war, famine, pestilence, global pandemics. There'll probably be biological warfare. There'll probably be nuclear warfare. There'll be all of those things, I'm sure, during the tribulation. Now, I just want to, just because it's so important, I want to bring in here to tie this in Matthew with Revelation, because this point in Matthew matches here, and it's important to know this. So Matthew 24 is matching here to Revelation 6, and this is when the Lamb, which is Jesus, is going to open the seals. Now remember, in Revelation, there's 7 seals, and then 7 trumpets, and then 7 vials, if y'all remember. And when he opens the 7th seal, it starts the 7 trumpets. And when the 7th trumpet is sounded, it starts the 7 vials. So there's like 21 plagues in Revelation. We're not going to go over all 21 of them, okay? We're just going to see here the very first one, when he opens the seal of this scroll that was found in heaven. He says, and you know, this is, so in Revelation, you have to remember that John is talking, right? John, the apostle, is writing Revelation. He said, I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. That's the Antichrist, riding on a white horse. It's not Jesus Christ. Okay, he's on a white horse because he's pretending to be like Christ, right? And when he had opened the second seal, there went out another horse that was red. So the first 4 seals are the first 4 horses of the apocalypse. That's what we call them. The horsemen of the apocalypse. I'm sure you've heard that phrase. The red horse, the horse of war. And to him was given to take peace from the earth. So that was the horse of war. The first one, the white horse. The third seal is the black horse. Okay, and that's famine. And you see it here. I don't have time to read all the verses because we're going to run out of time. A measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. In other words, there's going to be great famine. Okay, the black horse. And then finally, the 4th seal is going to be the pale horse, which is death. Because when you have war and famine and pestilence, you have death, right? And I have a picture of them, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So that's the first 4 seals of Revelation, and that is what Jesus is talking about here in Matthew. He doesn't give all these details that John did, but it's the exact same time, okay, that's happening. And that's just a picture of the scroll with the seals on it that I found. I thought it was a cool picture. So now back to Matthew 24, Jesus says, they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and betray one another, and shall hate one another. Great hatred will characterize the world during the tribulation. Remember, he's talking to the disciples, and this is about Israel, not us, okay? We're not here. We're not going to be here. This doesn't have anything to do with persecution of Christians or anything like that, okay? We're not here. But people who are believing in God are here, because there are going to be people who get saved during the tribulation. Amazingly, with all the deception and everything happening, there will still be people saved. They're called tribulation saints. But usually they are executed pretty quick, because anyone who doesn't follow the Antichrist has their head cut off. That's his favorite form of killing people. And who else likes to behead people? Yeah, the Muslims. And many false prophets shall rise and deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that endure to the end shall be saved. So again, deception, hatred, deception, hatred. It just goes on and on. It's like Jesus is trying. I went through Matthew 24 and I circled every time he used the word deceive or deception, and my Bible is just all circled up. So that should tell you that there's going to be a lot of deception going on then. Fake news. All the things we see now, but just so much more. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness to the nations, and then shall the end come. That's what they asked, right? When is the end of the age, and when are you going to set up the kingdom? And that's what he's telling them. All these things that have to happen, and then the end will happen. And after that will be the millennial kingdom. He's just not giving them huge details, because he's going to do that through John in the book of Revelation later. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. And I just put this verse in here also for Mark, because Mark is telling you the same thing about the Olivet Discourse, and he mentions the same thing, the abomination of desolation. And I showed you that verse already from Daniel. So we know from these two verses and from the one in Daniel, we know that the temple will be rebuilt. And it has to be rebuilt for those verses to happen and for the Antichrist to walk into the temple in the middle of the tribulation. And 3.5 years, he'll walk in and he'll say, okay, you can't worship God anymore, you're going to worship me. And then that is, from that time onward, is what we call the Great Tribulation. The temple in Israel. This is what we call the tribulation temple. They have everything ready to build this. Good morning. Except the real estate is currently occupied with a mosque. But they have everything ready to build this temple, but this will be the tribulation temple. This will be the one that the Antichrist is going to use. Okay?
Will it be built in the same spot as the other temple?
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be. It has to be there over the. They know where it's supposed to go. They go underground. If you go to the Temple Mount, and the last time I was there, we actually went. You can go under it. You can go under the western wall, and you can walk all the way down. It's kind of eerie because you're under the whole thing, and then there's a certain place we went past, and there's all these Jewish ladies, and they were all there. And we asked Brother Ed Frampton, because I was with them. We said, what are they doing? He said, this is the spot where they think the Holy of Holies was. It was up there, and they're sitting underneath it. And he said, they sit here all the time, and they pray for the temple to come be built. But they're sitting here because they think that up there, up on top, that's where the Holy of Holies was. They can't go up there, so they come down here underneath and sit and pray for the temple to be built. So I had never been under it before, so I never got to see that before, but the last time I was there. And now they've excavated a whole lot more, so you can see so much more now than when I was there last time in 2018. So if we ever get to go on that super duper tour of Israel, we're definitely going under the Temple Mount. Okay, we're going to examine it.
So what do you think the likelihood of that, what Ralph Sagan talked about, like there's room to put the temple up there with the mosque and that actually?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of theories, and people speculate a lot. I think the mosque will come down. That's my personal opinion. But I can't be dogmatic about that. It's just my personal opinion. I was actually hoping that one of those rockets was going to hit it, because it came really close, and I thought that would be a great way to get rid of that, but it didn't happen.
Just to clarify, not all Muslims want to do that. There's a term for the type Muslim that wanting to kill Christians.
So 99.999% of them hate Christians.
There's not just people here in America that say they're Muslim, but
they're a very small minority, very tiny. If they are adhering to Muslim policy, they are full of hatred.
kind of like there's Jews who say they're Jews, but they're not really practicing the Jewish religion. They may not be practicing that.
Right. Yeah, they may be kind of a cultural Muslim, but yeah, most of them, and there are two groups of them. There's Sunni and Shiite. There are two groups of them. Yeah, and they hate each other too.
Oh,
Yeah.
but which one's the ones they just literally hate Christians and want to?
Well, both of them are pretty. Yeah, both of them don't like Jews and don't like Christians and don't like each other.
So basically, if you see, like, what women, like, there's women out, they'll go shopping and they're fully covered head to toe, they're following at least one of those.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of them around here now, mainly due to Clemson University. Because if you go to Clemson, you'll see them even in Central. Other day I was in Central and one went walking right in front of me, and I thought, right here in my own hometown. But they're here mainly because of Clemson.
You're just gonna have to ask the Holy Spirit for discernment, because some of those women, they might be Christians, but they can't tell anybody. And they can't tell their husband because they're afraid of what's gonna happen to them.
That would be rare.
Yeah, it is.
That would be very rare.
But
And
even
there
if
are
they're
a few
not,
who are getting saved. But
yeah,
again,
we still want to love them and spread the gospel.
Yeah, it's
to them,
just,
'cause it could be
it's just like
dangerous.
she said, though, it's not a majority. You have to be careful, because a lot of them, they think they get points for lying.
Hmm.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
You have to remember that in the Muslim religion, it is okay to lie. And that's what I keep trying to tell President Trump in my mind. I'm always talking to him. I'm like, President Trump, you can't believe these people. They do not follow the Judeo-Christian values, the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not lie, all that. They're not following all that. In their opinion, it is perfectly okay to lie as long as you're going to beat your enemy. It's fine to lie. And that's what the Iranians constantly are doing. That's why they keep breaking these deals. Deception. Okay, it goes
we
back
still
to.
want to see them saved, but probably the best thing we do is pray for them.
Well, yes, you can pray for them, and if somehow you made a friend with a Muslim, then it might be that you could have inroads into speaking to them, but they would have to be open to that.
But they could be lying, so you really wouldn't know.
Yeah, you just have to take a chance. So the last thing I want to leave you with, and I'm going to show you this every time at the end, as long as we're here, because I want y'all to remember it. As the tribulation approaches, what should Christians do? Because we're not going to be in the tribulation, okay? Our time is now. So what are we doing now? So first of all, be wise, understand the times, understand what's going on. So be wise. Number 2, we need to keep worshiping God, praying, studying, coming to church. Be faithful in all those things. Working for God, give the gospel out to everybody. If a Muslim will take, there are people in Muslim nations being saved, okay? But in general, they have to be in a great trial before they'll reach out. And then finally, wait on God, because we don't know the time of the rapture. It's not given us to know. Anyone who tells you they know, they're lying, because Jesus himself said he don't know. And he said the angels don't know, and only God knows. Only God in heaven knows the time. And when the time happens and God says, okay, now it's time. Remember that song y'all used to sing? The Midnight Cry? It says, son, go get your children. That's how it's going to be. He's going to say, okay, time is now. Pull them in. And then we'll all know. But until then, we just have to wait. We keep working, because it could be the next 10 minutes. It could be the next 10 years. So we can't be like the people who sell everything and go sit under a tree and say the rapture's going to happen tomorrow, and it didn't. Okay, so we have to keep working like we're going to be living here, but just always keep eternity in view, knowing that at any moment we could be pulled out.
Jackie, I have a question. I don't know if we have time. No, we're right on.
Do y'all have choir practice?
No. Do we have time for a quick question?
Yeah.
So I know that the Christians will be raptured out before the tribulation. For the ones that will be left here, to me, it just seems like the Lord's return is so close.
Yes.
That Alice is going to say. It just seems to me like that. I know it's always seemed like that to me, but now it just seems to be even more so. So do you think that means, this isn't a opinion question, do you think that means that everybody that's left here has actually already seen the Antichrist because of technology?
Oh, I have no idea.
No idea?
Yeah, but I do think he's probably alive right now
Yeah.
because I mean, even if we're 10 or even 20 years away from the rapture, um, he's probably alive.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, he'd have to be. I mean, he needs to be a grown man to do all these things. So, but yeah, we really don't know. And it doesn't mean everybody has seen him. He might be a little kid somewhere, uh, just waiting
I didn't know if you
on
thought
that.
it was happening. Well, I know it's going to be a great delusion, so I know they will believe the Antichrist, the ones that are left here. I know it'll be a great delusion, but I just didn't know if it's possible. It's just an opinion question, not like advice